and Thrivers. I'm laughing at myself as we were behind the scenes and in the green room getting ready to come on because I had this funny thought in my head. And then I was like, oh my gosh, we're live now. Okay, hi. We want to welcome you to another episode of Rise and Thrive Together. I am here with my sister Regina. And let me tell you something for new listeners, Rise and Thrive is a vibrant community committed to empowering, equipping, and educating you to get the results you want through real talk, real actions, real results. Now, last month was Women's History Month. This month, you'll notice our background changed to blue because this month we're recognizing Autism Awareness Month. And our topics for this month are going to include appreciating our differences and also paying it forward. Okay, as we move forward into this first second quarter of 2024. We are so excited and so glad that you're here. And once again, we would love to thank our sponsors from last month for Women's History Month, Mary Kay, Ultimate Wireless, and the Eisenberg Leadership Academy. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. And anybody else wants to do any giveaways, because this month is a special month because it's my sister's birthday month. The whole month is her birthday. Hey, Reg, how are you?
Hey sis, so awesome. Thank you so much for mentioning my birthday month, which is so great because it'll go so much into paying it forward. But I wanted to share with you, as you were talking about, our sponsors, are one of our amazing winners, Colleen Dixon, just shared a picture. She just got her gift. So thank you, Mary Kay. She said, this beautiful gift arrived. Thank you so much, with a big smiley face. So when we're talking about rising and thriving together and what we're out to make a difference and paying it forward, it was thanks to Mary Kay that gave that amazing sponsorship gift to make a huge impact in somebody else's life, because she chose to be on every single week and keep on commenting and really shared her heart out. And for that, she gets gifted back. So I love this kind of like celebrating, making a difference, paying it forward, celebrating, making a difference, paying it forward. So that was so cool as you were sharing that. So yeah, and I like this blue background. I really dig it.
It's kind of cool, right?
I do. I like it a lot.
I absolutely love it, love it, love it. So, we are going to dive right on in here with appreciating our differences. Now, I don't know how many of you listeners know what Reg and I do when we're not rising and thriving together, which we're rising to and thriving together all the time. But when we are not working on rise and thrive together, what we do in our separate lives. So, sis, I'd like you to share what you do outside of rise and thrive together, the business. But this is a part of
Oh,
who we are in our life, right?
yeah. Thank you. So I was just sharing with Raquel before we got on that one of my favorite things in the world that I get to do for a living, which I don't even consider it work, is that I get to be a Zumba instructor. And I have two back-to-back classes on Monday. One at 10 a.m., which is open to the public, but most of the people in my class are all seniors. And the youngest person is me in the class, turning 56. And my oldest person in the class is 82. So when you're
Wow.
talking about Zumba fitness, that's right. People are like, well, there's Zumba Gold, right? And Zumba Gold means that it's a much slower version. So I'm not that. And they're not that. This is an active group of seniors that really love and have, most of them, Raquel, have followed me for 13 years
Wow.
since I began, which is pretty extraordinary.
Wow.
11 years as a licensed, work, Zumba instructor, and then 2 years prior because we were students. And so, yes, I show a version, but they go by their own beat. And so that's amazing. And they get to, most of them really are right on, point with me. I don't change my music. Zumba gives us a ton of music. So there's, every feel. I know you take Zumba, so you know the deal from like the soca and the salsa and the merengue to the bachata to the cumbia, like all of that fun hip hop, disco. We have a blast. And then my second class, where I have a small break, is fits into when we're talking about Autism Awareness Month. My second class is a group of adults that are as young as in their mid 20s to about the age of 35 is my
Mm,
oldest. They are all diagnosed between Down syndrome and autism. And they've been
mm,
in my class, and I've been doing 2 years of Zumba with them. And, like I said, we were sharing about the the love, and the thing that brings us together is music and movement. But the differences are, if I'm teaching Zumba to you and to your peers, Rack, you know that we're going to have you start to learn the movements, right?
mhm,
Inside of many of my other adults with very great capabilities, some of them will be able to learn those movements and they might be a little bit slower, and then others might not be able to. And that doesn't matter in my class at all. They're there because of one thing we have in common: the love for music, the love for dance. And then the rest is how to fulfill their capabilities the best way that they can do it. And that is our differences. So I'm me, they're them. And at the end of 1 hour, we all are like joyful, happy, and laughing, and got our cardio in and got our heart rate up, and like just shared so much fun. So that's like a little bit of some of the things that I do outside of Rise and Thrive. How about
wow.
you?
I don't do much. Rise and Thrive Together is my life. I don't do
So funny.
anything outside of here. I absolutely love it. I spend a lot of time appreciating people's differences. I really do. And I do different things. I'm working on another book. I'm a published author already, and I'm actually working on two books simultaneously. One of them is pretty much done. I just need to do editing, and the other one I'm actually really and truly working on. That book will be a New York Times best-selling book. I will be a New York Times best-selling author. I am confessing that, and I'm committed to it. So one of the things that I do, I still have my toe dipped in teaching, and it definitely plays into appreciating people's differences because they're at different levels. And what for me is important in appreciating people's differences is getting to know the person and respecting that we can have opposing views on a topic, whatever that topic is, and it's usually politics and religion, raising children, to just to name a few of the topics. But it's about hearing and appreciating another person's viewpoint, not necessarily agreeing, but hearing and understanding, and different cultures and how they do things. I'm friends with tons of people from everywhere and wherever they're from and different cultures. And I just learn from them. I have one friend in particular, a newer friend, and she is amazing. She's a doctor in Chinese medicine and acupuncture. Like we've had a previous guest, we had Dr. Dan from Cali. He has the same degree, and I appreciate who she is and what she brings to my life. Now, my question, sis, that I want to throw out to the audience is, how do you appreciate the differences in people? People you know, and people you may just come in contact with, like the local barista at your coffee shop who is nothing, who looks nothing like you. They have differences. People who may have a disorder, as they call it, and all that means is something is out of order. It in no way means that person is less than, that person can't do. It is so far from that. Reg and I have both worked in human services, and we've worked with people with who are dual diagnosed, and they can do some incredible things that I can't do. So it's about just our differences, and we kind of wanted to bring that into play. So I'll ask you, sis. I feel like I'm interviewing you. You're the guest on the show. Um, how do you appreciate people's differences, and why is it important to do so?
I love that. One, you said it perfectly. Really, first of all, we're human being to human being, right? So that starts as that. And number one for me is to not look at like we put in this thing of like you're better or I'm better or whatever we look like. All of that stuff is out the window. Like you, I'm a lifelong learner. So I love to, kind of be in conversation and get to know someone. Who am I to know anything? Like, don't judge a book by its cover. People often will say to me, oh, your family from Puerto Rico or your family from here. Like, and that's again out of love and out of whatever, but like they make a judgment just by looking at me. And so that's
Mm,
something that I've learned along my way, not to make that comment, but to ask a question,
mm,
right? To kind of like take that moment and, get to know that person and really be curious, interested in who they are. Like you, in the Zumba community and in the social work community, I'm around so many different cultures. Just you and I ourselves, as we're working on our upcoming, mission of service and going into the Bahamas, it was something that's been great to explore as you were both sharing about, going over to the Bahamas and sharing about the community and their culture, important things that for me to know
mm-hmm.
because again, we want to be culturally sensitive and caring, like not walk in like I know what I'm talking about because I'm not from there. I don't know what
Right.
it's like to grow up in the Bahamas. And the only truly Bahamas experience that I've had is the whole vacation other side. And that's not where we are, right? We're not in the all inclusive. And why? Because people matter. This isn't
Mm-hmm.
about me. People, I'm committed that each person really, my belief system and my value system is that people really want to be seen. They want to be
Mm-hmm.
seen. They want to be known. They want to be acknowledged. Like we kind of talk about, maybe they're not as outgoing as I am or you are, but people truly want to, connect. And so I want to be able to learn something new like you every single day. It's not like, oh, I already know this. Even on this
Right.
show, I don't know what I don't know. This is why you come up with the conversations, we come up with the topics, and we talk about it. I feel like that is so important for people to know that they're important, that they matter, and who they are, and where they come from, and what they're up to, or whatever they want to share truly matters to someone. Because if we really are honest, and I can look back in my life going way back, everything used to be just chatter, chatter, chatter. But now it's like, I love being with people. I love being able to just learn so much about them. And then that helps me grow, it helps them grow. And then the connection and what we can do together is so much more.
Wow. That was so well said. As you were talking about getting to know people and just appreciating that people are people and you don't know what you don't know. What I thought of is this past weekend. So let me just share with the audience. This past weekend, for those of you, I'll just tell you. So I volunteer with the NAACP Act So program, and that is a program for high school students, and it stands for Afro Academic Cultural, Technological, Scientific Olympics, because the focus
Woo!
is the Olympics of the mind. And these students compete in various areas. So we were fortunate enough to be invited to have a table at an event sponsored by Zeta Phi Beta sorority. And what they were doing was giving back to the community, and they were giving gowns, ball gowns, palm dresses, whatever you want to call it, to students. And not only that, they were also giving out gift certificates to get makeup, to get shoes, and their nails done. And it was all free. All you had to do was register. And this was such a tremendous, tremendous event. And there were young ladies there from all walks of life. Didn't matter what color you were, race, creed, religion, none of that mattered. We all just came together for a common goal. The young ladies got select the gowns that they wanted, try them all, come out, take pictures, and then they got to take that gown home with them.
Mm.
And it was just so incredible to see the difference. I met a young lady who has a disability. And you know what, guys? That didn't stop her. This young lady is phenomenal. She runs track and she's won silver and bronze. And I believe in May, she's going after gold. And it was just incredible to hear her, talk to her, hear her story, and not see her for what these eyes could see, but see her as a person who has visions, goals, and she is going to put 100% in to achieve those goals. And
Mm.
that's what brought to mind when you were speaking, sis. It was like, we see people as people. People do want to be heard. You said it. Also, Councilwoman Heather Cooper last week we had on our show. She said it. She said the youth just want to be heard. People want to be heard and they want to feel validated. They want to feel like they matter. So the question that I want to raise to the audience is, how do you help people feel like they matter? Whether
Oof.
it's people that are close to us, because sometimes we take them for granted. The people closest to us, we mistreat the most. And we take them for granted. But how do you make people feel like they matter? What do you do? Whether it's people that are close to you or just a stranger. How do you make a stranger feel like they matter? And you know what that brings to mind, sis? I went to what's that store? Whole Foods.
I love
Whole
Whole
check,
Foods.
Whole Foods. I went to Whole Foods and I was looking for a particular item and I went right up to the lady that was stocking the shelves. I was like, excuse me, where can I? And then I had to stop myself. And I was like, let me start over. I said, hi, how are you?
Mm.
Because when I just go right into what I want, I ignored who she was as a person. And I caught it. And I'm like, let me start over. How are you? And she laughed and she was like, I'm fine. Thank you. How are you? And I was like, I'm doing well. I've got a quick question for you. Where can I find blah, 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 blah? That took no entrepreneur. I'm so, it's like, how do we appreciate people's differences? And that's something that's really key and really important. So, sis, any feedback, any comments?
I love it. That just is beautiful because thank you for that big reminder about how we communicate with one another, right? Especially if we're walking into a store, if I'm going into Target, if I'm going into Publix, wherever I am, right? Wherever that is, it is an automatic. Like the first thing that's in our mind is because you want to get something. And most of the time it's, I want it then. And now it's instant. Let's be straight, guys. We're in this instant
Mm,
gratification, instant communication, right? We're in the technology, text, 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 text. It just hit me where I do that in the morning. I might want to have a question to you and I have to take a moment and put the GM, right? Because it's just like,
mm,
boom. It's like, it's first thing in the morning. Like take a moment, take a breath and say, hey, good morning, sis, right? Good morning, sis. Good morning, so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. So thanks for that amazing reminder. It definitely hit me to say, I would say right now I'm intentional. Like, I don't always do that, but I am going to take the month of April, right, to rise my elevation and my intention about whoever I'm communicating with, especially if I need something right away to take a breath and
right.
say, hey, anybody comment? Did anybody write anything in yet?
Yes.
Oh,
Dixon, last
Colleen.
name. Okay,
Colleen.
Colleen, truly listen to them and acknowledge what they say. Exactly. Just be there. You really and truly want to appreciate the differences that we all have. Just listen and acknowledge and appreciate it. Let me tell you, I tell my students all the time, I said, if every single person in the world was like me, what a boring world. I was about to say something else, but then I think my mama might be watching. But what a boring place to be. Like, I would never grow as a person if everyone was like
Mm-hmm.
me. Yes, everyone has an opinion, but you know what they say about opinions? They're just like bleep, 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 because everybody has one. But can we learn to just
Yep.
appreciate, agree to disagree? Can we just listen? And when Colleen says listen to them, she doesn't mean just hear what they're saying because we got two of these, but actually listen and stop trying to think of, well, what do I have to do when this conversation's over? Where do I need to be? But genuinely and authentically listen. Just be there with that person, hear them. And I've learned so much. Before we got on here, I was on the phone talking to someone, and Regina was listening, and she's like, "What?" And he was talking about when we told him the topic. He was like, "So should you appreciate this type of person and this type of person?" I'm like, "You don't have to appreciate the actions, but there's something else going on." And he was making mention of something that I don't want to fully disclose, but it was just one of those things where I still listened to him, even though I know he didn't mean what he said. I still listened. And I was like, okay, so I gave my rebuttal to him. And I know I'm speaking in code, but some things I just don't want to throw out there in the air. Not quite yet. Okay. But it was about listening. And he's of a different culture. He's different culture, color, probably religion. In every way, he and I are different, but we still listen to each other. What are your
Mm.
thoughts? Sis? Wait, Colleen put something else in. And accept people for who they are and who they're not. And I want to add another and not who we want them to be.
Want to be? Yes. I was just in there.
Can we
That
also
is,
say that?
oh my goodness. I was like so there when Colleen was up when you were talking. And so, and it's one of the things that both Colleen and I have known each other for a really long time. We've been friends even longer than I know you, sis. So that's a conversation that both of us have talked about, like, to accept, or for me inside of personal relationships, love them for who they are and who they're not. And I love that next one, and not for who I want them to be, right? That's the unconditional part,
Mm-hmm.
where again, that is something to grow into, and is an intentional growth and development to the day I die, because we can so easily judge. And again, I'll throw in, for a long time now, we have a lot of those conversations happening before we even have awareness of what our brain is happening. Out of code, we're born into them. Bottom line, we're born into them. And they've been told to us over and over again, subconsciously, consciously, media, whatever that is. And, so that's really what we are doing here, right? We're kind of peeling away the layers, peeling away, where this stuff comes from, non judgmental, and just having a real conversation with people, right? Just a real conversation. And I was thinking that, when you were talking about, I came on and you're in the middle of a conversation, old me, and I'm going way back in the day, would have been like, blah, 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 blah. But I just sat there and listened. I'm just listening. And not until you invited me into the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right, was when the conversation happens. But, old me could have been like, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. You think you're doing like the nice thing, like you jump in at a party and you're like, right? I'm like stepping back now, coming into listening, awaiting that invitation, or knowing when that time is to, kind of possibly jump into
Mm-hmm.
it. And that doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that, you're always invited to that. It's such an interesting, because you know me, I'll like jump into anything, start the party. Um, and to be respectful. So that's another thing you're going to say about appreciating differences, is, really being able to be respectful and mindful. So beside listening, what's the word I'm looking for? Being aware of your surroundings, being aware of where you are, and kind of like respecting, like, I just walked into this party and, it's all happening. So let me get my bearings around it, figure out what's happening, what's going on, and then work my way into that situation, or whatever it may be. And you know me for a long time. You've known me. So we can straight up know, like, whoosh, when people say they call me the mayor, it's because I jump into everything. I could say that maybe people didn't always appreciate it. They never really told me, but I'm noticing it for myself, that I would like to take my time and appreciate where I'm at.
So what I want to jump in with, when you said, people may have wanted to tell, I jumped in where I wasn't supposed to, and people just never told me. How do we tell someone that? In appreciating our differences, and someone says something that's either just straight up wrong because you're inaccurate information, or they're just being disrespectful. How do we go about correcting or providing more accurate information, or letting them know what you said was disrespectful? How do we say
Mm.
that?
Well, I think number one is there's this that's really packed, right? For me, that's like a packed conversation right there to unpack it all. Um, for most people, and including you and I, we've been through this together. It takes, one a very it takes courage. So I want to say to people,
Mm,
please, why we talk about real talk, please be courageous. And there is a way, right? There is a way to be able to say, and I have this a lot with my husband, right? I'm like, come in and he's in the middle of work and it's just like, honey, I truly want to hear everything that you have to say. And like I'm barging in just because he works from home. And he's just like, you know, I am working. Like I'm working. Because just because, we both are entrepreneurs and we're at home, like I think, you're building websites, right? Like, you're just building websites. That's such a disrespect to him, right? That's a disrespect of honoring his business, his passion, his purpose, like his
mm,
expertise, right? And that was like in the beginning, because we learned when we both were working from home. Now it is a, and that was a sensitive conversation, but he's able to say that, he's able to say, I love you, I care about you, I want to hear it, but this doesn't work. So we truly have committed time. We
mm,
create committed time in our calendar. And if I'm out, I can text, hey, I'm on my way home. Hey, do you have 5 minutes? And he'll say no. He'll say yes. Give me a time. That's you and I, the same exact way. It, this is what I say, jump in, guys. Just jump in and do it. Like, you don't like try to tiptoe, right? Like, just go in and just be like, hey, I appreciate you, X, Y, and Z, but this is not the time. And I'm also
mm-hmm,
gonna like throw out there, like, you don't have to pick up your phone every single phone call. Like every single phone call, right? Like every single phone call. And then like you don't have time, but you picked up the phone, and then the person thinks you have time because the assumption is you picked up the phone. So they're like, da, 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 and you're like, let it go to voicemail. Let it go to voicemail. What is that about? You and I had to do that a year into it later. You don't respond, I don't respond, voicemail. And then when we're ready, because it's not like pick up. There's something wired in our brain. Why do we think that's disrespectful? And I want to know what your thoughts
mm.
are with a couple of minutes left about that.
So you mean when someone calls and you don't pick up, or you pick up and you're like, hey, I gotta go, I can't
Yeah,
talk?
like you both. It's layered there.
Because for me, if I'm in the middle of something, and honestly, guys, sometimes it depends on who it is, right? So if it's I don't know, let's say if it's my mom calling and I'm in the middle of something, I'm like, okay, I'll call her back. But if she calls me right away after she hangs up, then I'm thinking, okay, let's see what's going on. Because
Right.
usually that's not her. But for me, if I'm really in the middle of something, a project, and I cannot stop, or not that I can't stop, I can, I just choose not to, then I'll just call you back. I'm not going to answer and say, hey, I can't talk right now, but can I give you a call back? And different times people call me in the middle of kickboxing. Girl, I am trying to breathe here. And here comes somebody calling me. And most people know what time I work out. And I'm like, listen, because I get it on my phone. I'm like, I'm in the middle of kickboxing. I can't talk. Gotta call you back. But for somebody who is being disrespectful to me, let me just say this. Raquel does not wait, because if I wait, what I'm telling you is it's okay what you just did or said, and you'll do it again. That's why we had the conversation, remember, a couple of months ago, about setting boundaries. So yes, to appreciate our differences, but there's still boundaries, because I'm still, at the end of the day, a person. I may be a person that's different from you, but nonetheless a person, and I need to set boundaries when someone is disrespecting you because of your differences. That's not a let's wait. That's a let's have a conversation right here and right now. Notice I said a conversation, no cussing, F words, F bombs, any other, and you, none of that. Let's have a conversation about it. Okay. And real quick, in the time we have left, I'm going to tell you a quick little story. So, one of these dating apps that I'm on, this guy, he was like, we just got on and just started texting. I mean, not texting, on the dating app. And he's like, so here's my number, call me. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to call. And he's like, well, you can call me from a blocked number. And I'm like, okay. And I really did say it like this because I heard it in my head. And I said, let's go slow. Let's have this conversation, okay? I am not going to call you from a blocked number or an open number. Do you understand? And he's like, okay, I got it. I got it. Right there and then, let's handle that. Because I saw that going somewhere and I didn't want to go down that road. So I took a different road and I had a different conversation. And in appreciating people's differences, we have to still set boundaries, because at the end of the day, we are still people and we have to be respectful of everyone, but people also have to be respectful of us. Okay.
Loved
Any
it.
last minute drops that you've got for us, sis?
I just put it in. I said, appreciate our differences. Let's know our own boundaries, learn about other boundaries. Let's have a conversation. Drop the mic for real talk.
And on that note, remember, ladies and gentlemen, together we can rise and thrive. Until next time.